is going to be a discussion with a friend interspliced with a beer and a chat. This is because my pal Riley and I shot a collab at Vid Con that ended up being super awesome, but slightly incoherent and hard to edit, as Vid Con vids often turn out.
Incoherent? There's a shocker right there. Now, do you mean your ideas weren't communicated well, or do you mean they were malformed?
For a more complete story of the beaver, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
I'm a non-binary trans woman, and I make YouTube videos about feminism and social justice and all sorts of stuff that interests me.
Hopefully you think our conversation is interesting, while my solo commentary clearly drives forward the points I'm trying to make.
Now, this video will be much longer than my normal videos because Ashley has said that she was interested in legitimate commentary on her video. Is she being sincere in this desire? That has yet to be seen, but in an effort of good faith, I will not be editing her video. So let's get this started.
So this is a scary video to put out there. I predict that 2 hours after this video is posted, the ratings will be okay, but 2 weeks after it's up, and the ratings will not be so okay. And that's because there's a community out there on YouTube made up of viewers and creators who seem set on silencing anyone who talks about anything they deem too social justice-y.
I don't believe that's a fair representation. I think the community wants to live in a world where facts dictate what policies and direction we take, rather than feelings and assertions. So when we see a video that makes a ton of unfounded claims, or is illogical, or is uninformed, we tend to make a response video to that person. Silencing people is actually counterproductive. Part of the way you learn about the world is to expose yourself to new viewpoints. And if those viewpoints are able to weather the storm of criticism and investigation, they're more likely to be true, whereas false ideas will simply be washed away.
Kind of a specific group of YouTubers who are just known for making angry response videos and kind of sending a lot of commenters to go to people's videos, feminist videos, to dislike them and comment and just destroy their ratings, basically.
So when you say angry, what exactly do you mean? Because I assure you, it's very unlikely that the video creator is actually angry. He or she may seem exercised, snarky, impolite, or scathingly sarcastic, but that's not anger on their part. That's probably their persona. It sounds to me that maybe you're the one angry, and are transferring that emotion to the people who criticize you.
It's almost like there's a threshold for them of social justice issues that are all right to discuss and support. There's general LGBT rights, sometimes binary trans identities like trans men and trans women, sometimes mental health advocacy, but anything above that threshold, like rape culture, trigger warnings, privilege, non-binary genders, Black Lives Matter, and definitely feminism, are not okay in the slightest to these people.
But why does this threshold exist? Did it arbitrarily come about? Because it matches my viewpoints very closely. Reason being, the things below your threshold are ideas that have been discussed and withstood criticism. They're good ideas. The concepts above your threshold are not. For example, let's have a look at Black Lives Matter.
Community is slightly different. I want to acknowledge that before we continue. There will of course be exceptions to the things I'm about to say, and I don't want you to watch this video and then go on making sweeping generalizations, lumping people in this category and thinking everyone in it is one certain type of way. That's not the case.
That's a really intellectually honest thing for you to say, so thank you.
That being said, largely the community that I'm talking about has strong associations with things like advocating for freedom of speech, atheism, championing logic and rationality, and if they have channels, most of the videos they make seem to be focused on ripping apart social justice advocates and their views. For the sake of communication, I'll give this community a name. We'll call them Anti-Feminists. This is simply because while all their views differ slightly, a vast majority of them seem to have a major opposition to feminism, so Anti-Feminists it is.
Well, like your threshold, I gotta ask, have you thought of why there's such a large anti-feminist community? Is it because we're hate-filled individuals that don't want women to succeed? Or is there something else?
If I find a better name later, I'll refer to them differently. Now, the real problem I have with the anti-feminist community isn't their views. I mean, their views bum me out, but there will always be people whose views bum me out. That's inevitable. The thing I really dislike about anti-feminists on YouTube is how strongly they advocate for freedom of speech, yet seem determined on silencing anyone they disagree with.
Well, first of all, silencing people is actually counterproductive. I mean, a large majority of anti-feminist sites have a ton of response videos. Those stop when we've effectively silenced your side of the debate. So I don't think we want that. Second of all, how do we silence you? Do we false flag your videos or otherwise have your videos deleted? I don't think so either.
And they go out of their way to do it. They actively search for social justice advocates and then make videos devoted to ridiculing specific people. And it's my opinion their critiques tend to be more condescending than constructive.
Except people saying unkind things about you doesn't prevent you from saying what you want to say.
I feel like they pride themselves on it being a very logical,
Yes.
rational community.
Oh my god.
Well, what do you say to that then? Do you think they are, in fact, as logical and rational as they claim to be?
Absolutely not. So
on either side of this issue, you will have logical people and you will have illogical people. For you to brush the entire group as not logical leads me to believe you're not thinking clearly about this, and have some sort of implicit bias. But let's see how logical you are with your statements.
my problem with this is that a lot of times they're atheist channels, and I'm an atheist, and I don't want to like bring religion/atheism into this, but it is largely like atheists who are like, I'm so logical and I am perfect and everything that I say is objective. And that's obviously not true, but they try to pass themselves off that way. Like, their comments are always, this is illogical, and you don't know what you're talking about, and trying to discredit you and saying that they're objective, when they don't recognize that every person has a bias, every person has a perspective.
So this is going to shock some people, but Riley is exactly correct here. Everyone has bias, but what Riley fails to mention is that some people rely heavily on their bias and others do not. Some people are inherently more logical in their thinking than others. And when someone says to you, this is not logical and here's the reasons why, there's no bias in that. Either it's true or it's not true.
Even I try to acknowledge my own biases, my own perspectives in my videos. Like, I know when I'm making an argument that this isn't the objective facts, it's an argument.
Wait a second, let's listen to that again.
Like, I know when I'm making an argument that this isn't the objective facts, it's an argument.
So this is exactly what I meant when I said some people rely on their bias more than others. And to speak to something that Riley is probably more familiar with, I would suggest to him that he's more like the person on the right rather than the person on the left.
So I just think it's misleading to say that this is everything exactly as it is, and I know that it is, without acknowledging your own perspective.
Also, I would suggest that Riley believes that everyone else argues the same way he does, putting their bias first and finding what facts they can to support their viewpoint.
And the videos they make implicitly encourage their audience to go over to their target's channel and harass them. Their audience bombards the social justice advocates' ratings with dislikes. Many people have bragged to me in the comments about how they made multiple accounts, dozens of accounts, just so they could dislike my content several times. That's dedication. And creepy. Creepy dedication. And
just because people act in the same way doesn't mean that they've been encouraged to do so. Perhaps something in your video led them to leave nasty comments or to create multiple accounts to downvote you. Isn't that more plausible than a conspiracy to silence you, which we don't want to do in the first place?
it's important to note that lots of these anti-feminist YouTubers have real power and armies of hundreds of thousands of people behind them. How much power does this community have?
Yeah, so it really depends. There are some who are very large YouTubers with a lot of influence that lots of people follow. And if they decide to target someone, especially a smaller person, it can bury them in the amount of dislikes and comments and things like that. But there are smaller people who make response videos and their impact isn't quite as big because it's like any YouTube community, even if it's, I would say, a negative one, it has a wide range of YouTubers with different levels of influence in it, basically.
So I can't disagree with anything that's said here. I will point out, however, that there's this implied responsibility that they're sort of shuffling onto these creators. And to dismiss that, I'm going to leave it to Milo.
Why didn't you stand up, as people called her, ape, gorilla, and worse, and say, guys, This is good to
Why should
do,
I have
but
to
not
police
racism.
other people?
Not
Why should I have to police
Why
other
not
people's
stand
speech?
up for rights?
I'm responsible.
Why not
for,
stand up for the rights?
I'm responsible for what I say. I'm perfectly happy to tell you I think that stuff is disgusting.
So you have
I'm
no
perfectly happy to
obligation
tell
for your 350,000 followers.
Does Justin Bieber have an obligation
who
to
were
his fans?
descending on this woman?
I'm sorry for being popular, but I am not responsible for what 350,000 people on the internet say. I am responsible for what I say.
All right.
Do you go after Selena Gomez when her fans send death threats to Justin Bieber? No. Do you go after Beyonce when her fans go after Taylor Swift? No.
So this video is almost like 4 minutes longer than what I usually have for my videos, so I'm going to stop it right here. Part 2 will be coming out this Saturday, so keep an eye out for that. And once again, if you like my content, please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out and keeps me motivated to keep on making these videos. Thanks a ton and have a good one.